every time a teenager loses their life, and this is the 16th this year, this must bring back your own personal horrors of having lost your teenage son in exactly the same violent way.
How long ago was that now?
17 years. 17 years I've been doing this.
And does it still hurt?
It gets, for me, it doesn't get any better. No better. I sat down, as soon as I found this news out yesterday, that was my day finished.
Yeah.
I was just stuck, just like this. All I could picture was the parents, the family, the little girl, the same as my boy. What was her last moments like? What was her thoughts? What the kind of fear was going on in her? Poor little girl, man.
I know. And do you not feel that, Mark, anything has improved, that an awareness, a realisation being curtailed? The government will say to us about all the impositions that they've imposed about stopping people buying these knives and whatever it is. But
that hurts the most, Damon, I'll be honest with you. So imagine you've been called for the news from 17 years ago and you're talking about the suggestions. You're saying we need a 10-year plan. We're saying we need to have organisations sitting at the table with a government putting a strategic plan together. Nothing's been done. And you're seeing these things happen. Knife crime epidemic now. So we're having a knife crime pandemic. I talked about this happening that after Kiyan died, that this is what you're going to have if you don't put something in place.
Do you know, every time I go past the QPR stadium and I see his name up there, do you think there's any relevance? Do you think people look and they think and they understand the story and he has any effect on today's generation?
110%. When you're getting messages not just from young people over here, but young people abroad, because that campaign, Long Live the Prince, went global. So kids across the world sent me messages talking about how that story impacted them.
Amazing.
It's a powerful, powerful story, because it wasn't just left in pain. They got to see that there is hope for them if you focus on your potential. These guys, it's like a lost generation of children we're dealing with. And I keep telling everyone, we are responsible. We're feeding them this information that they're seeing. We're in society.
One of the things I was thinking about yesterday, Mark, is the police officers who ever have to knock on a door and tell a parent, you know, that they've lost their child through something like this.
How did they break that news to you?
I got a phone call, so I didn't get the news broken to me by them. I got a phone call and we headed over to the hospital. Worst journey of my life. Getting there, listening to a doctor telling you that he opened your son's heart. He manually tried to keep his heart going. It's memories that just tear your heart apart. So you don't want to have these things thinking about all the time, because it's hard to function, really hard, but then you can't escape it and you need to sit down and just deal with it. You know, you can't run away from things. That's why my heart's breaking for this family. The journey that they're going up ahead now, the memories that they've got, they need all the support that they can get. And I really pray that they get all of the support.
But you know, I'm going to say something which seems quite heartless or cruel. But it is that family yesterday. But it'll be another family in 2 weeks' time or a month. Or Croydon. Look at Croydon, and the knife crime there is really awful. Well, apparently it's the 10th in the country, or the 10th worst
in the capital,
in London.
Where you find areas where the least revenue is put into young people, you're going to find a lot more problems going on in that council, in that borough, and you'll find that, you know, Croydon has gone down as a council, as, you know, corruption with the council, the money not going towards the young people. So there's a lot more problems there, because you have to invest in the youth. And as you take investments away from the young people, how do you build their future?
Right. Well, we will have an argument, and there'll be viewers and listeners who will say this as well, and they'll say, Mark, how you do it is stop and search, and we're talking about reintroduction of stop and search, but you'll tell me, and you're absolutely right, stop and search never went away.
Well, exactly right. And why are we focusing on all the symptoms? Why don't we start dealing with the cause? And that's what this whole issue is about. It's the cause. Parenting, I think there needs a lot of support for parents now. I'm never down for knocking people. I'm always down for supporting. Where do we find the problems coming from? We find the problems coming from the home. So you want to support parents in the home with their young people. And we know all the other challenges that are coming from the media, coming from social media, any means that young people can get information, which is they've got access to it now at their fingertips. How do you monitor what's affecting your child's mindset? This is about mindset. And we underestimate the power of visuals. You can't be giving children all these visuals of sex, all these visuals of violence, all this information overload from like a little young age, primary school. By the time they get to a certain age, you start seeing the effects of it coming out. And I'm telling you, we're underestimating the power of all of the adult information impressed upon children from a very young age.
That's a really interesting point, and one we will explore in more detail.
Yeah.
I do want to bring in Nathaniel Peat. He's a youth worker for Safety Box, and presumably, Nathaniel, you'll have been hearing a lot of what was being said there. Do you think that stop and search is the answer in all of this?
No, I mean, like Mark said, this is a mindset issue. This is not about stop and search. Stop and search, like Mark said, has not gone away. When I founded the Safety Box years ago, in fact, around about the same time that Kiyan was murdered, stop and search was around then. The statistics show that it has little impact in terms of affecting crime. It shows that, there's a lower proportion of arrests which are made because of stop and search. There's ethical issues around this where you're talking about disproportionality. This is when I heard the inspector talking about, territorial support coming in and in fact, when those police from outside the borough come in, they wreck the community interaction that the other police have been building with that local community. It is a draconian method, and we have to basically get into the minds of young people earlier. We need to address the issues of mistrust. We've got to start to build them up. We have to start championing them. We've got to build within them leadership skills and teach them about conflict resolution. We've got to basically help them with traumas that they've experienced. We have to get into the mindset, because it's mindsets that kill. It's not the knife.
Yeah,
it's
but Nathaniel,
mindsets that kill. It's not the gun that kills, it's the mindset.
Nathaniel, what is it going to take, though, for that to change? How many children need to die? I mean, we were speaking to a former detective, Peter Blexley, this morning. He said there was a river of teenage blood running through our capital. We're all sitting here wringing our hands, a lot of us well-meaning. How do we actually change things?
The change has got to come with a collective, multi-agency approach. We know from the public health model approaches like they've done in Chicago with reducing violence. Glasgow had an issue 10 years ago. They implemented the public health model approach where you're talking about working correctly with multi-agency strategies. That is working with primary school level. That's working with parents. That's working with social workers. That's working with the police. That is working with all of the apprentice opportunities and local businesses as a collective to create pathways for young people to get into employment. It's about investing into youth centres. It's about giving them other opportunities. It's about understanding neurodiverse conditions in children. It's about stopping the disproportional exclusion of young people from schools and actually incubating them, giving teachers the right skill sets to deal with the issues that young people may face in a broken home. It's about education. It's about societal changes where you're talking about disrupting the digital outlay of violence that is shown within video content. It's about monitoring that. It's about parents putting limits on what the children are exposed to with music. It's about putting a tap on negative, violent music, because we know that from science it shows that the amygdala, which is a part of the limbic system of the brain, records all of that traumatic information. It records everything, and what happens when that is triggered, that young person becomes violent. They don't have the ability, once the hormones are moving, to emotionally regulate. So we need to teach them how to emotionally regulate. It's about relationship building. I mean, there's so many strategies. Mark could even talk about this, because we've been doing this work for so long. Mark can tell you, like, honestly, when we hear this, it is so painful. We've worked in that girls' school.
I just want to bring Mark in again, Nathaniel, and the thing is, he talks like you. He's got this pent in this enthusiasm, this, I don't know what to call it, but there's an urgency about what he's talking about. And there is an urgency about this. We in the media will say, oh, this is terrible, this is ghastly, what happened, whatever. Then it all goes away. Yes, right. And then it all comes back again. But you were saying, and you can hear it from Nathaniel there as well, that you've got to tackle the source, the root of all of this. We've got to approach cause and effect. We've got to do this differently.
Yeah. 100%, and just the pain of just being here again. I just prefer just talking to Mr. Peat right there, because just the pain of this repeating is too much.
Almost like repeating and nobody listening.
No one ain't listening. No one cares. The proof's in the pudding. It's self-evidence-based truth. Who's done anything? There's so much talk about money being invested into knife crime and the young people, but where's the strategy? You can't just throw ideas around. Police talking about stop and search. That policeman talking about, oh, the police, we're not social services, we've got our job and we must go in hard. You're talking about human beings. You're talking about to young people. Why are you going to go in hard just to arrest?
On that
That's
point,
the problem.
Can I ask you about, in your son's case, the other young person in all of this, who was convicted, Hanad Hassan, 16 years old. How do you feel about him? Is he still behind bars?
Still behind bars.
Do you feel
he's up for parole?
He's up for parole, and do you think he deserves any sympathy? Is there forgiveness there? Is there rage still?
Look,
it's
if I held on to unforgiveness, I wouldn't have been able to go in and do so many prison works and help young people with offenders. If I held on to unforgiveness, I wouldn't have worked with Catch-22 charity to go in and visit Hanad myself, because I wanted to have a conversation with him. Because why, if I was a parent at home and the school called me and a kid punched my child in the nose and broke their nose, wouldn't I go down to school? Wouldn't I want to see the child? So if you've killed my child, how come all of a sudden we're not getting to see the person that's hurt your child? That didn't make sense to me. So of course I want to see him and have a conversation. I didn't get to. The prison pulled the plug on it. I didn't get to. So I can't talk for him, but many of the children that I see are in messed up situations. I just done a prison this week. We're talking about little boys, man, who've got 17 years, 22 years for what do they call it? Enterprise, joint enterprise. Right. Joint enterprise.
What does that mean?
You're there. You're at the scene. Yeah. You didn't commit the crime.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But you've got 22 years. There's a kid in there, Sebastian I met. Someone got hit. The person dropped on the floor, knocked their head, died. Yeah. He's still in jail.
Because he was there.
This whole thing's just messed up.
Well, you think about things in a very different way, and through Kiyan's foundation as well. You do all that.
They're still kids, man.
I know. Well, Mark, I would love to have you back and maybe talk longer sometime. You're so passionate about what you do. And Nathaniel, thank you very much indeed as well. We haven't got time. We haven't got time to get back to you, Nathaniel.
The London Violence Reduction Unit as well. We need more money from corporates. Fund London. All right, give London Violence Reduction Unit more money to help them to power up the young people, because they get a good support for all these organisations. We need more investment.
It's right, man. That's the problem.
And Mark's agreeing with you and saying it's right. Both of you, privileged to talk to you.